Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching or listening, of course, if you're on one of the audio podcast platforms, to this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. Now, if you are watching, then you can already see this week's guest on the screen, but we will introduce him in a moment. If you're on the audio podcast, you'll hear his voice very shortly. He's on the line all the way from Belgium. He runs the European Hypnosis Academy and Hypnose Centrum in Belgium. You will find all of his web links, social media links, and all that kind of stuff below this video or below the speaker symbol on your favourite podcast channel, so you can go and check out his books, his courses, and his newly started podcast, all things that we'll talk about over the course of the next sort of 60 minutes. He is in Belgium, an official licensed trainer for the late and great Jeffrey Stevens direct hypnosis protocol. He's a licensed trainer for Sheila Granger's gastric band. As you know, Sheila's been on the show before. You can check her out on a past episode. He is a licensed trainer for the Dave Alman Hypnosis Institute, and also for Bob Burns' The Swan, or as I call it, Naked Pendulum, but we'll talk about that a bit later on. So please welcome to the show, and he's going to kill me probably because I will probably pronounce this wrong and totally offended. But I think, well, I know the first bit's Rob, but I think it's de Groof, Rob de Groof.
That's how English people pronounce it, but it's actually de Groof.
It's de Groof.
But I'm already used to it that people call it de Groof. So yeah, people in Belgium here they sometimes laugh with it. They say, "Hey, de Groof." So
I should know better because my sister, well, my half sister, because it was from my dad's previous marriage before my mum, but she was brought up in Holland. And there's a lot of similar, yeah. So I should really know better.
It's the same language. It's exactly the same language that we use, but the accent is different. It's like English and Scottish and United States English, but it's the same dictionary, same grammar. It's exactly the same language.
Oh right, okay. You learn something new every day. So Rob, look, I know who you are. A lot of the people who are watching and listening already will have heard of you. They may have seen you presenting at one of the many hypnosis conventions around the world over the years, or come across your website, or one of many other ways. But there will be some people who don't yet know you, and even the ones that do may not know how you got to where you are now, namely doing hypnosis, also having an involvement in mentalism, which we'll talk about later, and obviously being involved in hypnotherapy. What was your journey? What was your path to get to here? Because I know you had a background in theatre as well.
Yeah. So like 10 years ago, I was still running my my entertainment business here in Belgium. So I started quite soon doing theatre. When I left high school, I went into theatre. And a few years later, I had my own entertainment company. So we were actually delivering acts, all kind of acts, from fire spitters, jugglers, balloon modeling clowns. I had my own clown show, stilt walkers, whatever, name it, and we were able to find it for the organizations in the Netherlands or in Belgium. Most of the time in Belgium, of course, but we had also clients in the Netherlands. And I did that for many years. So I had my own illusion show, most of the time for children. We did most of the acts that I provided, I could do myself. So I learned how to do fire spitting, juggle, magic, of course. But after a while, I was really getting tired to perform for children all the time. So sometimes we were performing for adults as well, but not actually like, it was more like we do something for children. There were some adults, and I find it more interesting to entertain adults than always children. So I wanted to add something to my repertoire so I could entertain more adults. So, and the joke that I'm always making is that I can't sing, so there were only two choices left: or I could become a stripper or a hypnotist. So I decided to become a hypnotist, because stripper, yeah, the the time that you can do your career is quite short because after a while they don't want to see you naked anymore. So I decided to become a hypnotist. So I had no intention at all to become a therapist, because in my mind a therapist was like, yeah, you come into the guy's office, then you have to tell the entire story of your life and all the sorrows that you had and things like that, and then the therapist starts working, and I was totally not interested in that type of doing hypnosis. So I actually wanted to learn it to do stage hypnosis and street hypnosis, of course. So I started looking around for some trainings in Belgium, couldn't find anything. Then, so yeah, it was in the back of my mind. Oh, hypnosis, maybe interesting. And then all of a sudden, I got a newsletter from a magic shop in the Netherlands, and they said, "Oh, we have in 1 month we have a lecture at Wednesday evening or something from a stage hypnotist." So I signed up immediately. So I drove with a few of my people that worked for me, some of the artists. We drove to the Netherlands, and so yeah, there was that lecture about street hypnosis or entertainment hypnosis. So, but I met some people in that lecture who had a kind of a meetup group. It was before there was really actually much going on Facebook. They had some meetups, some weekends. They just gathered and talked about hypnosis. So they invited me for those weekends. I was watching some online courses, or it was more DVDs that time. So, and I start doing hypnosis with my artists, with my secretary at that time, and it's still on YouTube, the clip that I did with my secretary. So and of course the good thing of being an entertainer for so many years is that my I can speak quite congruently, and so everything worked quite fast when I was doing the hypnosis. But then all of a sudden I got this phone call from one of the guys I met at those meetups, and he said, "Yeah, I bought these DVDs from an American guy, American hypnotist called Jeffrey Stevens, and that's something for you. You really should watch these DVDs." And I asked him, "Is it street hypnosis? Is it show hypnosis?" No, it's change work, it's therapy. And I said, "No, I don't want to be a therapist." And he said, "Yeah, but this is something for you. It's no nonsense hypnosis. It's short, powerful sessions. You really should watch these DVDs." So I got the DVDs and I started watching. And after like 1 hour, I went to my office and I said to my secretary and the other technical guy that was working for me, I said, "I don't want to be disturbed for the next 8 hours because I just want to keep watching these DVDs. Hold all telephone calls for me, write down the questions. I will answer them tonight, but not now." So I kept watching the DVDs, and I had something, okay, on this way, if you can do therapy on this way, then maybe it's something for me. Because at that point, I was already convinced, and that's something I tell my students a lot, I was already convinced that you can't become a good hypnotist when you're not hypnotizing people. So in Belgium, it's not that easy to become a stage hypnotist. First, it's illegal. We actually can't do stage hypnosis in Belgium. There is a very old law. Nobody is acting on it. But officially, we can't do stage hypnosis. And the other big problem in Belgium is the language. We have a very small country, only like 11 million people, but half, it's a bit less, but almost half of them, they speak French. So, and it's not easy to. I did it when I was a clown. I did some shows, not much, because I actually don't like doing it. I did some shows in which I speak Dutch and French. But first of all, my French is okay. I can make a conversation in French, but I can't entertain in French. And as I can't hypnotize in French. I can hypnotize in English. If I study it, I maybe can hypnotize in French, but I don't have the urge to do it. But you can't do a hypnosis show speaking two languages. It's you have to say everything twice. It's crazy. So so there are not much opportunities to do hypnosis shows in Belgium, or you have to go to high schools. But in
What
Belgium,
about just using an interpreter? Because I mean,
yeah,
I've done that in the past.
yeah, I know, but then you have to. The problem is that the audience will be mixed. The audience will be Dutch speakers and French speakers, and the especially when you work for companies, and the companies, they will want you to do it in two languages, not with an interpreter, because that for them that's because then the French speakers will be, oh, we have to listen to the interpreter. So, and then the interpreter is has to say anything. The Dutch people will not follow the pace of your show is gone. When the entire audience is Chinese, you can do it with an interpreter, because you can just do your thing and the interpreter can do your thing. But when the half of the audience actually understands you and the other half has to listen to the interpreter, it's really crazy. And they don't want it. They because there are entertainers who speak two languages, so they want it in two languages. So I really realized that I can't have gigs every week to do hypnosis. So I said, maybe when I do like 2 or 3 hypnotherapy sessions on the way that I saw on the Jeffrey Stevens DVDs, then I will hypnotize at least 2 or 3 people every week. So I stay in touch with hypnosis. And then sometimes I have a gig, sometimes not, because I had my other gigs as well. Yeah. So I decided to create a little website. At that time, it was called just Hypnotherapy Arscott, is the town that I live in. And I used actually the same marketing principles that I used for my entertainment business. At that time, Google AdWords. And the good thing, when I started using Google AdWords for entertainment, I was the first on especially on the search words like fire spitting and balloon clown and things like that. And when I started doing it for hypnotherapy, I was also the first. So after like 3 months, I had a full-time hypnotherapy business. I didn't plan it, but it just came. So it was, sometimes it was highly unprofessional, because I was doing it at my office where also my entertainment business was. So sometimes there, just before the client arrived, one of the artists just put all his material in there, his stilts and his clown shoes and things, and then the client has to enter. So it was highly unprofessional, but I had good results. So also by, of course, the Google AdWords, but then after the good results, by the referrals, my schedule was growing and growing and growing. And so and then I started getting more and more into hypnosis, because yeah, it was my full-time, I was full-time busy with hypnosis. And at that time also, yeah, then I felt that I was not that much interested in doing the entertainment anymore. So I kept doing it in the weekends, hypnosis in the weekdays. But then because I like to organize things, I was in touch with Jeffrey Stevens just on a chat box. And then I saw that he was traveling to Australia to do a training over there. And I said, hey, why don't you come to Belgium? I can organize it for you. I can host you in Belgium. He said, oh, why not? So I invited him here over in Belgium. Then the year later, he came back. And to do is he was here for like 14 days, so basic training and the advanced training. And then we had some chat also with my colleague from the Netherlands, and Jeffrey actually asked us to become his trainers in Europe, because of the fact that he couldn't come to Europe every year or every 6 months to do a training. And he said, you guys are using my techniques on a daily basis. I know you're good at it, so why don't you become my trainers in Europe? So that's how I became a trainer. And then I started, I rented a place where I have a classroom and things like that. At the moment, we are already in a bigger place here in Belgium, same city. But so that's how things started. And then, 1 year later, Jeffrey died. He died from liver cancer. So he was diagnosed, and like 14 days later, he died. So the family contacted me after like the same day to tell me he died. And then 1 week later, we had a chat about how we can keep his work alive. So they asked me to do the trainings all around the world. So that's what I'm doing actually. I'm now At the moment, I'm don't see that much clients as I used to do. So before I had like 35, sometimes 40 clients a week. So now I maybe see like 2 or 3 clients a week, because most of the time I'm running the business, because I have 9 therapists working for me here in Aarschot. We also have an office in Ghent and in Antwerp.
How's all the COVID nonsense affected you over the past 12 months?
Oh, it was bad. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm doing now most is getting my business through this COVID nonsense, of course. Because I was in Australia, I was teaching in Australia when Belgium went in lockdown. So yeah, I had so our schedule we had at that time we had 8 hypnotherapists. Their schedule was full for like 3 weeks, but then they closed down all businesses in Belgium. So they have, and the big problem in Belgium, and I got some feedback from people in the UK as well. And the big difference with living in or having a business in the UK or Belgium or Australia or the United States is we start, or I ask my therapist to start calling the clients who had booked the session to see if they want to do a session on Zoom, an online session. But most of the Belgian people, they don't like, or they didn't know it, because Belgium is so small that you can't drive for more than 2 hours in Belgium because you leave the country. So
Okay.
when I start where I'm now, I live quite in the middle of Belgium. When I drive to one side, I hit the German border in like, or the Dutch border, and then 10 minutes later the German border in 1 hour and 10 minutes. The other side, I hit France in 1 hour and a half. The other side, it's 2 hours, and then I hit the seaside, and then the next thing is the UK. So people live very close to each other, so they don't use Zoom and Skype and things that much. So the regular people, the ones that are clients, when you tell, oh, we can do a session online, they are like, oh, online. So they don't know what. So in the first lockdown, they all said, oh no, let's wait. We will come back in 3 weeks, because at that time the government said we had a lockdown for 3 weeks. Of course, now we're almost 1 year later. So it's so it was March when I was in Australia. So I had to come back, and I came back to a country that was totally closed. So most of the time I'm adapting the business now, especially the trainings, because now we are seeing clients live again. So I think we had 2 lockdowns that we couldn't see clients live, but now we are allowed to see clients live, because as hypnotherapists we can have the distance. We can have distance, and we don't have to touch the clients. One of my therapy rooms is rented out to a massage therapist. Of course, she can't work because she has to touch people. So they call it the contact professions. The contact professions can't work, but we as service professions, we can work, because we don't have to. We can keep the distance. But of course, the online the trainings, all my trainings from after March 20 in March 20, since March 2020 were cancelled. So I adapted all my trainings to do live and online trainings. It was actually Jason Lynette who gave me the idea because I didn't want to transform my 7-day training to a 7-day training online, because first I can't teach online sitting in front of my camera or my computer for like 7 days, 6 hours or 7 hours a day, because I have a back problem. When I'm teaching, I just walking around, and then it's okay. But so Jason and Lynette gave me the idea to do a live and hybrid training. So what I'm doing now is people first watch the professionally videotaped material of my trainings. Luckily, I had it, because I'm a freak when it goes to cameras, and I have a green key studio here. I have 3 professional cameras. I have sliding cameras. So when there is a training here, it will be it's filmed with 3 cameras, professionally edited. So I had everything. So the only thing that I had to do was create online trainings that people can watch. And what we do is here it's normally a 7-day training when it's live. But what we're doing now is they watch from every day. They watch the videos, and then every Wednesday evening for 6 weeks in a row, we have an online training as well. So they can ask me all their questions that they had from the videos. and they and we do the exercises that we can do in the Zoom breakout rooms. I give some more demonstrations, so that's what we're doing now. So we're still running, but of course, those people, they can do the training. So it's actually the basic training, a 7-day basic training, in which they also learn the Jeffrey Stevens protocol. But of course, we don't have much master classes going on, and that's normal because my clients, my student clients, are hypnotherapists, and those hypnotherapists were not earning a lot of money the last year because of the fact that everything was closed.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they don't have the budget to pay masterclass. So yeah, we are quite low on trainings now. So that's one of the. But we still can. The biggest problem for me is when actually my therapist can't work, because then I have to pay rent in three cities without income, and that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, bloody hell. Let's hope this doesn't drag on too much longer, because just when you think it's light at the end of the tunnel, they go and bloody lock places down again.
I think especially also in Belgium now, the what they call the UK version of COVID is starting here. So so I don't know what's going on. But
whereas we're getting apparently the Brazil and South African version.
Yeah. So we are getting the British version, they call it.
Yeah.
So it's yeah,
weird.
But let's see what's happening. So, but
So
I don't think we will do much traveling to conferences in 2021. So,
yeah, it doesn't look like it's probably going to be next year, isn't it, before things get back to normal. But fortunately, most of the conferences and stuff, the vast majority of them have actually moved online.
Yeah. Even Blackpool, I saw that Blackpool is also going.
Yeah. There's the odd listener and viewer who may also be into magic. In fact, there's a surprising number over the past 12 months. I've become amazed at how many hypnotherapists are interested in magic.
Yeah, a lot.
I knew there was obviously stage hypnotists interested in magic, but wow, there's a massive amount of therapists as well, which you kind of have mixed the two, as I've done, and a few other people in the past have done as well, in terms of mentalism in particular, because it's got that context of the mind and the ability for us to, what I would call, ethically lie, because it's with positive intent of helping the client, to nudge and guide them in the direction of being in the receptive state of mind. And in that regard, you've got a book, Mentalism for Hypnotherapists, which I've read the reviews on YouTube, and for anyone watching or listening, watch the review. I stand by it 1,000,000%. The only criticism I had of it, full disclosure, the rest of it was praise. The only criticism was, I don't think you went quite far enough in giving examples of how mentalism can be, with a bit of ethical lying, used as the actual therapeutic process, not just the gateway. You cover very well the gateway to get them in the state of mind to be hypnotized, but it can also, of course, be used as the therapeutic process almost.
Yeah, I saw your review on my book, and of course that you're totally correct. That's not in the book, because I actually don't use it a lot in the therapy room. I use it more as a gateway, because when people are here in a therapy room, I think in Belgium it's a bit tricky to do that. People sometimes know that you're doing a trick or whatever, and then people are in Belgium. People are really skeptical, so I think it's a bit tricky to do so. So that's why I don't use it in the therapy room, because you already mentioned that I'm a trainer of Bob Burns, the Swan, and actually what I'm doing, I use the Swan almost every time, because for me that's also something that because what I do then, it's I install the Swan, and yes and no, and then I said, okay, now I want you to think on a number between 1 and 10, and then I just reveal the number by using the Swan, and that's for me the gap between using this and doing the actual hypnotherapy is so small, because I use those signals in my sessions as well. So that's why I actually don't described using the mentalism actually in the therapy room.
For anyone wondering why Rob just wiggled his finger like that, it's to indicate idiomotor responses,
Yeah.
IMR, i.e. non-verbal direct communication with the unconscious, subconscious mind without the person's conscious awareness, which has taken many, many forms over the centuries, one of which we're going to get Rob to talk about in a minute. Arguably, probably the earliest publications that I personally come across go back to sort of the 18th century on what would these days be called clairvoyance. And there's one that I've actually got that in it, it's probably the first one where I have seen use of a pendulum. And well, I haven't got my pendulum out. I should have got it out, really. I should have planned, but we'll pretend that's the chain of the pendulum hanging down. People who are listening, you'll have to use your imagination or go on YouTube. And yeah, I've found an image in an old 18th century book on basically psychic type stuff. And there is the hand holding the pendulum. This arm, by the way, is supposed to be a tabletop or that I'm leaning on,
Yeah.
or a chair. And that's probably the earliest mention I've seen of, and that just predating all Chevreul's pendulum and all that kind of stuff. But idiomotor response, getting a signal of, give me a signal that's yes, and it might go in a circle or a straight line. You let them decide, as it were, and then getting one for no, maybe one for maybe. And it actually in this book goes on about how you can question people, and through the yeses, nos, and maybes, use it to do what these days we'd call psychotherapy or counselling, but obviously they weren't using those terms back then.
No, of course.
And when Bob came out with the Swan, which I actually helped him launch, he will tell you that's untrue, but I mean, that's a different story. Anyone who wants to know the truth, go on facebook.com/Alex the Hypnotist, click on photos and albums, and look at the one Bob Burns defamation of character. For some reason, he wants to blatantly lie and say I didn't give him the marketing advice to launch it, but there you go. Screenshots prove different. I told him two things at the time. One, that ultimately the Swan is just a naked pendulum. In other words, it's the pendulum with, because you're in the position you would be using a pendulum,
yep.
And it works for exactly the reason a pendulum does. And that the Swan, conveniently, it's so called because it looks like a swan. But again, he denies that any hypnosis is involved, pretty much, generally. But SWAN conveniently stands for subconscious wave analytical negation, which is exactly what you do in fixation of attention on one thing, bypass the analytical critical faculty for a slight idiomotor movement of the... That's my take on it. But tell us a bit more about the Swan, because despite the fact Bob Burns is a blatant liar, the actual technique is useful and powerful.
It's when I'm teaching the Swan, I really and that's how I market it here in Belgium, because I'm the trainer for the Swan in Belgium. So I tell to my students that it's one thing that you should have in your toolbox, because for me it's really it gives many advantages when you have it, and I always tell my students that it made the lives of hypnotherapists much easier since that technique is there. Of course, you can use other ways of IMRs as well, but I love the fact that I use it before I start doing anything. So my clients are coming in. I don't do pre-talks. My pre-talk is on a video. I have an explanation on YouTube why I do that. Because first, I don't want to tell every time the same thing to clients, that you're not going to sleep, and they don't listen anyway. So I send it in a video, and now they're much better prepared. So it's actually my topic when Hypnothoughts is going on in Las Vegas. I will talk there about video intakes and also like interactive video intakes, something new that I'm working on. But so I don't do intake. So like 5 minutes after the client enter my office, we are already doing something, and that's the Swan. So I will install the Swan, the entire routine, and then I will also go to the yes and no signals, and then play some a little game in my book Mentalism for Hypnotherapist. I explain the same game but then with a pendulum. So I will ask them just to think on a number between 1 and 10, and then the swan will reveal the number, because I just ask it. The swan gives yes and no, and then I will have the number. Sometimes I play another game with a color as well. But first, what it does for me is first I see the reaction of my client. I know whether he or she has a very good movement with the swan, that I actually get yes or no signals. So those things. But of course, it's also the first convincer. For me, it's a very that's the most important part, because people come in and, like I already told, most of Belgian people are really skeptical. So it's first, it's a big step to go and see a hypnotherapist, especially when they don't have a referral.
Why do you think that is? Because you've said that a few times. Belgian
I
people are
think
particularly skeptical.
Yeah, I think because we are so down to earth. Belgian people are really down to earth. They don't believe something like right away, or so I think we all have a very big critical faculty going on. I think that's what's going on. Most of them are also quite introvert, so they are not like we are totally different than like Dutch people. We speak the same language, but most of the time they are more extrovert and we are more introverts. I see it with my students. So when my students leave my training, a lot of them they are really like, maybe we should do another training before we start, or I'm gonna wait to hypnotize people after I did some more trainings. Like when you see people from the Netherlands, I always say they already have their website ready before they sign up for the training. So they are totally different. They are more like, oh, let's go out there. I'm the hypnotist. So I'm more like Dutch. I act more like that. So but then they are in my office and they see something happening. So I had it with medical trained people who finally decide to see a hypnotherapist for their problem. So for them it was even a bigger step, because, and then the moment I start talking about the swan, I say and I don't say I'm going to test to see if you're a good subject. No, I just say I'm just going to see how your subconscious mind is going to react, and then we can see how we proceed. And then like 1 minute later, their hand is moving without them doing it. So for especially for those medical trained people, it's like they have something going on in their mind, like this is not possible, because the moment I start talking to their subconscious mind, so they think I'm just talking to their hand. That's what they are thinking, and I actually say I'm talking to your subconscious mind, and then I see the change in their face, and they say inside they are thinking, oh no, I made a bad decision because this guy is crazy. So I see, and then all of a sudden the hand does this, and then they know, especially medical trained people, they know that they didn't do it themselves. So they are like, whoa. I had one, it was a psychologist, and she started crying. See, it was the reaction of her. She started crying. But at that time, they are already convinced that something is going to happen. And then sometimes, now a lot, I just don't go to the therapy chair anymore. I just keep working. I just say, hey, subconscious mind, can you hypnotize this person? Oh yeah, just turn the hand inside, bring him in a deep side of hypnosis. So
just
and
to
then
play,
I use it inside my session as well.
just to play devil's advocate, bearing in mind I stress for viewers and listeners at home, despite anything I may have said about Bob Burns, who I actually think is a wonderfully skilled individual. Okay, I want that to be quite clear. It's just that I'm also, like I said before, making it quite clear that he's the liar and the one guilty of defamation, and the evidence is out there. But that doesn't take away from the technique. I'm making that clear as well while we're here. But from the actual technique point of view, naked pendulum, as I call it, but the swan, I have found that that's the table again for people at home. that if and this is not appropriate during COVID anyway, because you're not allowed to bloody touch people because of social distancing, but pre-COVID and when we get back to normal, I found that if I go up to them, if I show them like that, and then they go and put their elbow on the chair arm or whatever, and kind of get into position, that it doesn't, unless by sheer fluke they do it so they end up kind of, well, let's say we told them to do it like that, okay? If they perfectly do it straight away, fine. If it's not in that kind of position to start with, I will go up and kind of go, no, and put them in the position so that it's like this, where we've gone from the arm being straight out in front of them. It's ultimately going up just so you get, for people at home, so that the tendons on this arm are there and the hand goes down like that because it's slightly uncomfortable. And those tendons here, in that position, starting position, after a while start, and it's not long, it only takes a matter of seconds, you can try it yourself, start to hurt a bit. If you draw conscious awareness to it, it starts to hurt a bit. And naturally, it starts to feel so much better when you move the arm, because now the tension isn't on those tendons in the same way. The first actual movement happens due to a physiological movement trick.
Yeah, when you put it more to when you put it a bit more to the outside, that's normal now. But
which makes sure that there is a movement to start with, which acts as a further convincer, meaning the people who might not have been quite as quick in responding are more likely then to proceed with the rest of the SWAN protocol.
Yeah. One of that's the skeptical mind of Belgian people. One of my friends, I was doing it in just on a party, and he said, oh, but that's normal because the hand will relax, and then after a while I had the hand going back to the starting position, and then he was like, no, that's not normal. so that's of course it's something that you can use when there is the first movement is actually doing a lot. When you have the first movement, and especially when it's quite a big one, people start like, whoa, what's going on? And then they go on, then it will start to work even better. But I use it as a convincer, but also I use it a lot in my session. So I combine my direct hypnosis approach, so the things that I learned from Jeffrey, with this. So I combine it a lot. I mangle it a lot. Oh.
So I mean, do you use? Because I assume you use it well the same way Bob does. So it's you use this before doing any sort of formal trance induction hypnotherapy work?
Yeah. I use it before the session, before people are hypnotized, and what I do sometimes, not always, but I use it inside a session as well. So somewhere, well, when I had a chat with the subconscious mind, I can use it as a in the Jeffrey Stevens protocol. You say something like, you talk to the subconscious mind, and after a while you say, nod your head if you accept and understand. But then I use if I know that client had a good yes and no, then I just ask the subconscious mind to give a signal instead of nodding the head. So I use it inside of the hypnosis as well. I know there is a big discussion going on in the world about is the SWAN hypnosis or not. I actually don't care. For me, it's just a tool that I use, and it's. I don't go into all those discussions about is it hypnosis, not. Also, there are the other
well, I think
big discussion. Do you use it? Do you need an induction or not? I don't care.
But there's not really a discussion to have, is there? Because ultimately, either A, hypnosis exists in the way that lots of people put it out to be, in which case that involves fixation of attention and bypass of the critical faculty, in which case you've got both of those happening with the SWAN, in which case it's hypnosis. Or hypnosis doesn't exist the way that lots of people teach it, and it is just purely nothing more than important seeming ritualistic processes, placebo triggers, manipulating beliefs, exceptions, and belief expectancies and perceptions. But in which case, also, all of them are present, so therefore it's not hypnosis. So the first question should be, if they're going to waste time debating something like that, is what actually bloody is hypnosis? Because
Yeah.
whatever hypnosis is, I would argue the swan is as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
as any pendulum work is.
of course, the discussions always start, first at what is hypnosis. And for me, one thing that I tell my students also, for me, I don't care on how it's working or why it's working. If it tomorrow and I find a technique that I just put somebody on a chair and I walk 3 times in a circle and he's cured of whatever problem he has, okay, I don't care. That's good, because
Yeah.
my goal is to give my client a change. And how that I do the change and how does it work, or why does it work? Because yeah, we are working with people's minds, so we'll never have proof of is there a subconscious mind, is there not, is there whatever, I don't care. So as long as the techniques that I'm using work and I have good results, I don't care about the definitions. For me, it's
Exactly.
really not important.
And your clients couldn't care less either,
No,
could
no,
they? They just want.
they don't know the definitions. They don't know the discussions that we all have in Facebook groups and at bars, at the conventions and conferences or whatever. So yeah, but yeah, we have to do something. So, yeah.
So I mean, that's the more. You then go into the more conventional hypnotherapy with your clients, which obviously I'm guessing is largely based on that which you now teach, Jeffrey
Yeah,
Stevenson.
yeah, yeah. So,
Stevens.
so I use direct hypnosis most of the time. So my sessions are really short, are powerful, but short. So what most of the time what we are doing is actually just talking to the subconscious mind. I never use regression. Only when I have to when somebody lost something, or when I do forensic work. I sometimes do forensic work as well. Then I use regression, but not regression to cause. I'm actually, Jeffrey was a more he was really against using regression to cause. I'm more like, okay, I'm not trained in it. I can do it, but I'm not used to do it a lot. And for me, it's more like I'm not trained as a psychotherapist or like or as a psychologist. So what I don't like about regression to cause is when you just regress somebody to the cause and there some information will be revealed that the client didn't know up front. I'm not trained to have a chat after that session with the client about that. So, and I don't think it's a very good thing to get things out of the past in the present, and then not be able to help the client on a conscious level. I don't work on conscious level. I'm not trained to work on a conscious level. I don't see myself as a conscious level coach. I'm a hypnotherapist. I want to work with the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, whatever you call it. So my approach, it's really the direct approach that I of course I learned from Jeffrey Stevens, and also those are the techniques that I teach my students. I'm developing my own style, of course, then that's normal, and I'm creating my own programs or protocols. So I recently created a hypnotic breast enlargement protocol that has really good results, and it's actually came from something that I more like a joke that I was making, or not a joke, but people thought it was a joke. So when I do a training, there's always a moment that people ask, "What can you do with hypnotherapy?" And then I start mentioning the obvious things like stop smoking, weight loss, and so on, phobias, and so on. And I always ended with breast enlargement. And when I'm teaching, that's the entertainer or the clown in me. I'm doing a lot of jokes and magic tricks during the trainings and things like that. So people thought it was another joke, and they start laughing. And I said, no, there is actually there has been some research in the 70s about breast enlargement. And then I say, have you ever done it? No, I never did it. Do you know a protocol? No, I don't know an actual protocol about it. But I promised my students the moment I start seeing less clients, because at that time I already had that in my mind to give more of the work to my therapists and start researching and doing other things. I said the moment I start doing that, that's the sorry, that's the first thing on my list. So like 2 years ago, I started doing some research on hypnotic breast enlargement. I had some trial sessions with female students and clients, and we had very good results. So then I start developing the protocol more. I created a training, and now I have I think about 10 practitioners all around the world. We're looking for more in different countries. So hypnotic breast enlargement practitioners. Also, those people they are starting to do the first sessions now, and some of them they already did their first session. They have very good results. So it was something that the one problem with hypnotic breast enlargement is that I don't put it on my regular website. In a country like Belgium, with the skeptical people, when I put it on my general hypnosis website, and you are looking for a hypnotherapist for stop smoking, and then you see breast enlargement, no, that's not a serious guy, because most of the people, and I was the same. The first time when I read about breast enlargement with hypnosis, I was like, yeah, right. So I wanted to see it. It sounds nasty, but I wanted to experience it with my own eyes. So
It definitely works, no doubt
of
about
course.
it. I mean, in 1994, the Sun newspaper in England, which was at the time the biggest read newspaper, ran a feature on the fact that in my former name of Alex Leroy, I was helping lap dancers and strippers to increase the breast size, and they followed the results. And it does work. I would still argue, Law, that the largest part of it, which doesn't matter, because if the person's got a result as far as they're concerned, they have. The largest part is that it gives the person more self-esteem, and the people that tend to want a breast increase tend to have self-esteem or issues, and obviously with therapy you can massively help them with that, and that's built into the thing in itself. So that itself gets them to notice themselves in a better light anyway, as well.
Yeah, one of the things that what I'm doing now is I didn't do it during the trial, but I start doing it with the paying clients, because sometimes the feedback that I got most is, oh, my boyfriend noticed it before me. So what I ask my clients to do now is to take pictures. So just pictures themselves, naked. They don't have to send them to me, but for themselves, they can if they really want. They can. I don't care. No. So they just take pictures, and every week they take another picture, and then they will. It's same with weight loss. Then they will see the result faster, and being convinced that something is going on will also help, and that's really important. So with apart from one, with all we had very good results. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it's not a 100% success rate, but that's with nothing.
You can find out more at the website links below the video of the speaker, and go and visit and see what Rob does in relation to this. I'll just add, for people who think it sounds a bit batshit crazy or anything, think of this. Women, when they have their periods, release chemicals in the body, which can, for some, cause a natural increase. During pregnancy, massive increase due to the hormones and chemicals released. And if you look at the work of the likes of Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, and the field of epigenetics, there is now strong, credible evidence that the mind can create chemical releases in the body. Well, not just can, it does. Every thought you have, anger causes, relaxation causes different chemicals, but you can also cause genetic change. So when you put those together, it's not really that batshit crazy, the idea that you could help someone to increase the size of the breasts, or for men, another part of the body,
Yeah, one of the things that I experienced, especially in the trials, was that I had this online form that I had to fill in every week with the measurements, And I also asked them to put the dates of the periods in there. So
Right.
and what I saw was that, of course, when they have the period, the breast will increase. But in a normal situation, when they didn't have the hypnotherapy session, then the increasement will go away off because the period is finished. And when they did a session, the growth stayed. So I saw that like they had 1 centimeter of growth when they had a period, and then it stayed the week later. And so every time they had a period, they had a growth. So it takes some time, and that's also sometimes a problem. Especially I had one client, and it was a bit of a special situation because she actually had her surgery operation booked with the plastic surgeon.
Oh, right.
But it was cancelled. It was cancelled because of COVID. So yeah, all those unnecessary surgeries were cancelled. It started in March here in
That's
Belgium.
lucky
So
for her in this context.
yeah, but then she came to me because she was referred by one of her an osteopath that she was seeing, or her mother was seeing an osteopath, and that osteopath was one of the ladies that I did my trials with. So she said, "No, you have to do it on a natural way. Go and see Rob; he can help you." And so at first she was not really convinced that hypnosis can help because she was in her mind the operation was the only thing that could help her.
Yeah.
So then she actually came to me we did an online session because at that time it was still not allowed to do a session. So we did an online session, and but the problem was that she really wanted to go like 2 cup size in growth. I didn't promise her that it was possible, so now she has 1 cup size growth, but it's going too slow for her. So and the last weeks, because yeah, sometimes that's all that the body or the mind can do. Because I one of the things that I always do, and I'm not going to change that, is I always tell the subconscious mind, do whatever that's safe and healthy for her. So I'm not going to ask to do whatever. It might not be healthy. So I just say, I want you to change the breast to this size, but do it on a healthy level, on the fastest way possible, but the most healthy way and the best way for her. And for her, it's actually going too slow. But of course, it's the body that has to do it. So you can't expect the same result as coming out of the hospital with big boobs. Of course, that's not going to. It takes time. And I had one girl. She's a very good visualizer, and she had it on like 1 month and 1 week. She had the breast that she wants, and she said, because she was one of the first that was taking the pictures. She says they are actually the way that I visualized them. So but with her it was really fast. Sometimes it's really slow, but that's because I really ask the subconscious mind to do it that way, the most safe way. So that's really important.
Now, obviously, there is the element of, we've already discussed that it genuinely genetic change can take place. Okay. People go and do your research if you kind of find that one a bit. A large part, though, I think also does definitely come down to what Maxwell Maltz, the former plastic surgeon, but in his book Psycho-Cybernetics, that people come to see themselves differently. Because he gives the examples of people who'd had plastic surgery because they knew that was the answer, and then they still didn't think they were big enough afterwards, or that the nose was still too big even though it had been reduced, because they hadn't dealt with what was in there.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously you with hypnosis, the approach you use, I use, some other people, it can also deal with that as well, can't it?
Yeah, of course. That's really important as well. It's the same with the virtual gastric band. People go and go to the hospital, have a gastric band, but then they come out and they're still the same emotional eaters, or they are still the same binge eaters, or they have emotional problems, or they have a partner who's always telling them that they're gonna be fat anyway. So there are other things that need to be solved, and that's the good thing of doing hypnotherapy, because you can work on so many levels.
You proved you're a mentalist, because
really
the next
important
on the list was gastric band, and you segued into it perfectly. Because, yes, I was going to say, oh, tell us a
Yeah,
bit about your work as a licensed trainer for Sheila Granger's gastric band, but you've already segued into it.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. So that's one of the things that I do as well. I'm a trainer for Sheila Granger in the Netherlands and Belgium. So all the Dutch speakers I do trainings for. And yeah, it's actually the same. It's the same way of thinking when you don't go through all the other emotional stuff, and then most of the time when you do a good session, you will hit those things, and you can resolve them. The biggest problem with weight loss in my mind is not the person you can work with, but the environment is something that you can't work with. You can make them stronger against the environment. But I had one client, and she had very good results after the first session. And then at that session, she already mentioned that her husband, it was not her husband, her boyfriend, um, he was really jealous, and he was not really happy that she was going to lose weight, because then she would be more attractive to other men and things like that. And in his mind, that was not a good idea. So he was constantly sabotaging her. He was a hobby cook, so he was preparing food all the time, and then he was angry if she didn't want to eat it and things like that. So like 3 months later, she came back for her third session, because um, I work a bit different in the when they do the session. So third session when you need it. She came in and she said, "Yeah, I have to be honest. It's not. I stopped listening to the recordings and anything, because it was my boyfriend is terrible." And then she left him, and then we did another session, and now everything is it's okay. So the environment is always something that we can't influence, and we had it also with children. Of course, I don't work with children younger than 10 years, but one of my therapists, she's specialized in working with children. But sometimes the problems are the parents, and yeah, then you can do 100 sessions with a child, but yeah, sometimes the parents just are not listening or don't want to change. And then so that's one of the big reasons that sometimes people, and that it's a question I have every training from my students. Do you give something like a guarantee or whatever? I said, no, I don't give a money back guarantee. The only thing that I do is I will guarantee that me or my therapist, so that's also on our website, that me or my therapist will do whatever is in our power to help you. But of course, we can't guarantee results, because sometimes they don't tell the entire story. Sometimes they just have the environment that is sabotaging whatever you did. So there's so much going on in people's life, and that's why, yeah. But those things, like one of the things that I'm a bit changing now, in my entire way of thinking about hypnosis. When I start doing hypnosis, and I'm marketed that way, and I think in the beginning that was really the difference. Sheila Granger called it, when we were together in Florida, not this May, but the May before, for the Daytona Beach Convention. We had a dinner with the Elmans and some other presenters, Sean Michael Andrews, some other presenters. And somebody asked me about, how did you do that in Belgium? How did you from scratch build a big hypnotherapy business like this in Belgium? And Sheila said, it's because Rob disrupted the market in Belgium. And that's what I actually did. I came with these powerful sessions, with one session therapy thing. So at that time, most of the hypnotherapists, there were not a lot, were psychologists, and they all used long progressive muscle relaxation inductions. People had to come like 5 times, even for stop smoking. And then I came on the market with my short and powerful sessions. With most of the time, one session will do the job. So what the one thing that I'm changing a bit now is my perspective on the one session thing, because I still believe that one session can do the job, but most of the people, they want to see you for a second time, even when that second time is just to say how wonderful the session was and how good it worked. But they have some other thing that they want to work on, or this little thing, or sometimes the problem with the environment. So, and I experienced that when I start doing the virtual gastric band, because then you see your clients multiple times, so you get more feedback. You get, and then you can sometimes with a little intervention, you can make sure that the first session, because I think all the work is done in the first session, that the first session will still do the job. And sometimes people need that extra thing. So now also for the breast enlargement, because my mind is now everything that people don't see the result immediately, and of course with weight loss you can't see the result immediately.
Yes.
With breast enlargement you can't see the result immediately. I'm creating more like multiple session plans for that. Stop smoking, they go out and they don't smoke.
So they've got a support system
Yeah, yeah,
effectively.
yeah. Then they see the result, and when the result is not possible to notice immediately, like weight loss, breast enlargement, and some other things, then I go to multiple sessions to have that support going on because people they start to doubt really soon, because I used to do weight loss sessions, one session with very good results. But sometimes then they just after 1 week they say, "Oh, Rob, I don't think it's working." Okay, what do you expect, that you lost already like 10 kilograms over a week or whatever? So I had once a girl or a lady, and she replied me or she sent me a message the day after the session to say to mention that it was not working. It was weight loss. So 1 day after the session, she already know that it was not going to work. Okay.
What, you're going to go to sleep, wake up, and have lost the weight?
Yeah.
Wow,
Oh,
magic.
yeah, I would be a multimillionaire if I can do that.
Yeah,
You as
billionaire,
well.
more like.
Every hypnotherapist would be a multimillionaire.
Yeah, mad.
So
So
yeah.
what we've just gone over the hour, so I last couple of things, but fortunately we've got through most of the bullet points here. What have you got planned for the future?
I'm
Obviously,
work,
when things have got back to
I'm
normal.
working on a lot of stuff now, but the thing that I'm working on now is it's another weight loss protocol, and it's actually something that I'm doing myself now. So I was the first test person. And there are already protocols out there that does the same, but I'm creating my own. So it's actually the combination between intermittent fasting and hypnosis. So I really I read a lot about intermittent fasting. I really like the approach. I see also what it does, and that's actually something that I'm combining. So I'm creating a program. The program is ready. I tested it on myself. I'm
How
start doing it with clients now.
how,
So
how does that? I mean, obviously you've looked into it in Belgium, but I know that in England, if I as a hypnotherapist was to hypnotist, mind consultant, whatever title I was using,
mm,
if I was to advise my clients to fast, and I know it's intermittent on and off, but
mm,
if I was to advise them to do that, I'm putting myself in all manner of bloody legal hot water
okay, well,
with potential because some people, well, the only way potentially avoiding that hot water would be that they've consulted with their normal medical GP to make
yeah.
sure there's no underlying reasons why they shouldn't
That's
do that.
that's also some recommendation that I will give them. But maybe the approach that I'm using is I don't decide what fast you're going to follow. So you will all the information will be there. You pick your
Okay.
fasting plan, whatever that suits you, and I as a hypnotist will help you to first to follow your plan, and I will also make sure that your subconscious mind knows what you want to do, that your subconscious mind knows what your target weight is, and that you will go there faster, so that you will not have those hungry feelings in your fasting window. But I'm not
Right.
going to tell them what a fasting window should be. So I the only thing that I said is I will tell them. It's also on my website. It's that the 16/8 is the most popular, and I will give them all information. But I'm not going to decide what of the fasting plan is that they should follow. So they can, and my website also mentioned that yeah, people under 18 can't do it. When you're pregnant, you can't do it, and so
Yeah.
on. And when in doubt, always consult your GP or general practitioner or your medical doctor.
Very important things
Yeah,
Robert just covered there, and it's amazing how many hypnotherapists out there, if you go doing an interesting 2 hours just looking at random websites, don't have warnings like that on their websites.
You need it nowadays because otherwise you can't use Google AdWords anymore because they just will not allow your advertisement. So I have one guy. He's a marketeer, and the only thing that he's doing is having conversations with Google because the when I started using Google AdWords, I can advertise whatever I want, and now they deny or they disapprove every. So sometimes an ad is there for like 3 years, and then now we had it the last few weeks, and then we got emails. Your ad is disapproved. Huh? It was there for 3 years, guys. And then you can actually see how much you paid on Google to have that ad, and you say so you had all this money and now you don't want it. So it's one thing you can't do when you're in a business and you make the mistake to open your Google Ad Manager, and you instead of last week you said lifetime, and then you see how much money you spent on lifetime ads to Google, and then you get sick. It's a very nice Range Rover. So,
yeah, but
I have one, but I could
in
have another one.
fairness, if you hadn't, then I know some of that will have been lost. Other will have produced a return on investment.
I hadn't had this business. Okay,
Yeah.
I know that, but it's the moment you see on that screen, you say, whoa, you have to click it away because of course that every dollar or euro that is there, it was multiplied by 5 or maybe much more.
Exactly.
So,
Let's focus on that
but
policy.
it's the mind. It's the mind.
Excellent. So your links will be below this video and the speaker. I will put your links there to the European Hypnosis Academy and Hypnose Centre on both websites and YouTube channels. There's some really good videos on there that people can go and check out and learn from, frankly. And if there's any particular social media channels or anything you'd like me to bang the links to, just inbox me them.
I will send them to you. Yeah. I have a document with everything in, so I just sent you the document, and then you have everything.
Oh, excellent! Then I'll copy and paste them all in, and that way, and guys and girls watching or listening, you can just go below this, click on the links, go and check out the stuff, and then obviously reach out to Rob if you'd like to, and if it's geographically, although he's starting to do stuff online, so geographic's not as much of an issue. If you'd like to, look into his techniques, Jeffrey Stevens' direct hypnosis protocol, Sheila Granger's gastric band approach, Dave Alman's techniques. Actually, that's one thing left on the list. We need to finish with that because I've just realised we didn't cover that. We covered the Swan. We didn't cover David Alman. You're a licensed trainer for the Alman Institute.
I still have like 3 minutes because I have a Zoom session planned.
All right.
So.
Rapid then to finish. What kind of stuff do you cover in the Dave Alman training? Obviously, Dave Alman.
It's actually the normal the best practices from Dave Alman. I became a trainer like 1 year and a half, 2 years ago, and a few of those things were already incorporated in our trainings, like Dave Alman induction and things like that. But actually, the goal was to create some trainings. Just a sec. Okay, Google, stop alarm. It's just Google telling me that there is a Zoom call waiting. I have to do it because otherwise I just keep working and I forgot my Zoom calls. So actually the goal was to create, together with one of my students who is a dentist, to create more trainings for dentists and medical practitioners using the Dave Alman approach. Because of course, Dave Alman was known to train doctors in his time. So, but COVID got in the way, and that's why we didn't have a chance to create that training. But I'm actually training the best practices of Dave Alman. So that's cool. That's what we're doing.
So for details on that and everything else, because Rob's got things he's got to do. Thank you for joining us. Sorry we overran a little bit there.
It's okay.
Check out the links below. Thank you so much indeed, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
We'll see you on the next edition of Hypnosis Week Live.